Good day everyone. As you have all probably gathered, I have some bad news for you. Biddy and Miley's nesting story has came to a premature end, unfortunately. Now I will say, just to reassure you all, that Biddy and Miley are still alive, and I'm sure they are out there doing their usual business. But our problems arose on the 6th, where one chick had died. Now there's nothing too unusual about this, unfortunate for the chick, but not unusual. Biddy tried to remove it from the nest on that day, but couldn't. And it wasn't until the 7th, and at 4:30 in the morning, that we saw this. She seemed to be struggling to move. And I will say this, viewer discretion would be advised here in this video. While she doesn't get hurt or get injured in this video, she does look quite distressed a couple of times, so just to be advised of that. So at 20 to 5, Biddy seems to be having some real struggling in trying to move and maneuver herself. And as it turns out, she has managed to get herself stuck. The chick that had died on the previous day had got tangled up in some, what I think is human hair. And that chick and hair has now tangled itself onto Biddy's foot. And this is very distressing for Biddy, as she is not able to go out and get food for the chicks, but she's not able to go out and get food for herself. And her survival instinct would start kicking in. She's starting to look out for herself rather than the chicks. And the nest, the well-being of the nest goes out the window, and rightly so, as she needs to survive first and foremost. So as the daytime mode of the camera turned on, she is in no better position. And Miley brings in food as usual for Biddy. Now unfortunately Biddy tries to go out and eat the food. But unfortunately has some real struggle in leaving the nest. You can really see she doesn't really understand what's happening. This would be very distressing for her. This is also the reason why we see on websites and such, when they're saying what nesting material to put out, human hair is really not suitable. Unfortunately, I'm still in bed at this moment and have no idea that this is going on. You can see the dead chick in front of her there. That chick seems to be tangled up in the nest pretty bad, and it is stuck to her foot. And her answer to this is to try to start taking apart the nest in hopes it sets her free. You can clearly see that Biddy is very distressed. And by the end of this video, you can even see the markings at the hole there where she was trying to peck her way out. She was really trying everything. And needless to say, this is very, very bad for the newborn chicks. As you can see, the nest is really being torn apart as she needs to try to get out to survive. And you can see the nest is really starting to take a whole lot of damage. And I really do believe that Biddy would have never made it out of this nest. She is well and truly stuck. And unfortunately, through all of this mess, the chicks have been tossed to the bottom of the nest, to the back of the nest. This really broke my heart to see, after all her hard work that she'd put in. But at the moment, and rightly so, Biddy is only caring about herself. She knows that if she doesn't get out of here, she will eventually starve and die. She is trapped in the box at the moment and has resorted to even trying to peck out of the nest hole. Every so often she would stop and try to find the chicks and sit at them, and they are well and truly tossed all at the back of the nest at the moment. So Biddy would have been constantly fighting survival instinct versus motherly instinct. She made some good progress in trying to get out sometimes, but she was always well and truly anchored. She was never really getting out. She was tediously close a few times, but could never make her way out. She is well and truly trying everything. She is trying to fly up, sidewards, and any which way in hopes of getting free. But unfortunately, with no joy, she is just stirring up the nest over and over again. And you can see at 5 to 8, when and around I was waking up, that the nest was well and truly destroyed. And after seeing this, and knowing that Biddy would have never made her way out and would have came to a slow death in the box, I decided to intervene. And I certainly wouldn't usually recommend this, but as I really felt like we didn't have a choice and I didn't want to just leave Biddy to die. So eventually I came in and I took Biddy out and eventually cut our way out of the nest. I managed to cut her free from the moss, but it actually took me a further 10 minutes to cut her free from the chick. She was really intertwined with the chick.
So what happened after all of that? Well, I tried then for a further 10-15 minutes to free Biddy from the chick, and it was what I think it was something as fine as human hair, I believe it was human hair, tangled around the chick's foot and her foot, and then the chick was then tangled and stuck to a lot of moss. So when I eventually got Biddy free and let her go, she flew off, and she is alive and well, and I've seen her in the garden since, so she is doing well, and I've seen Biddy and Miley still hopping around the garden here and there. I then proceeded to check the nest, and there was only 2 chicks alive. So I put them in the nest cup to where they could find, because they'd made their way down at the bottom and they were as cold as ice. They were very cold and didn't have much of a chance, I thought, of survival. But I left them there to try and in hope that Miley and Biddy, because they needed Biddy for the warmth, would return. Now Miley did return with food every so often, but the chicks were too cold to feed, and the male blue tits don't incubate the chicks. They don't have the instinct for it, and they don't know that it's something that the chicks need. The females do all the heating of the chicks, and at this age, especially just a few days old, it is crucial that those chicks are kept warm. So unfortunately Biddy never arrived home, and eventually the chicks died. And that was the pretty sad end to our 2020 nesting season. So this may seem all doom and gloom, but there is quite a substantial silver lining here. Without our intervention, Biddy would have came to a slow and tragic end in the nest box. It was only due to the camera being in the nest box that I knew anything was wrong. So while it is, yes, tragic for the chicks and all the hard work they put in so far, Biddy still has the opportunity to raise some young, whether it be this year, because it is quite still early in the year. There's every chance that Biddy will go make another nest elsewhere. And also she will certainly get the chance next year. So while it is a tragic end for this year's chicks, Biddy and Miley's stories still continue, thankfully. So if there was ever a silver lining in all of this, that would be it. So I want to just take a moment to thank all of you for following it all with me. I thoroughly enjoyed following our story, and I will be continuing to do so next year and most nesting seasons in the future. So as I said, unfortunately, our 2020 nest box season for ourselves has ended. But again, Biddy and Miley's story are still continuing, thankfully. And it brings me great joy to think that she's still alive out there, and if it wasn't for myself, she would have died. So I'm taking that as a silver lining, and we will continue this nest box story next year in the 2021 season. But as for myself, please stay tuned. I plan to put up a video every week. I do a lot of wildlife filming. I have been doing a lot of filming of pine marten and of some foxes recently. I've recently found a fox den, and there's one baby cub in that fox den, and while I can't get my full video camera to it, as it's just deep into some bushes, I managed to get a motion sensor camera in there, and every 3-4 days I sneak in there and switch the cards. So I'm getting some really lovely shots of this little baby cub. I'll show you one of them now. As you can see, this little guy is tiny, and there seems to be only one of them as well, which is quite unusual. So while Biddy and Miley's story is ended, there's still loads of wildlife and nature out there to be discovered. So again, thanks for joining me. I want to say again, thank you very much for following me through this nesting season. I thoroughly enjoyed interacting with you all, and seeing the amount of enjoyment everyone was getting out of it. So thanks again, and stay tuned for more, and thank you very much. Alrighty, bye bye.